Melbourne's property market is beginning to sizzle. In February, it was the #1 performing capital city in Australia. In this video, I'm going to go through 3 suburbs you should be looking at if you are spending more than $600,000 on your next property investment. Let's go. Suburb number 1 is Carrum Downs. We have talked about this one a little bit on the channel and done a podcast on it as well in the past. But now it is starting to look really, really good. And it's partly because of the macro circumstances. So let's dial it back a little bit before I get specifically into Carrum Downs. Why is Melbourne, and more specifically, why is the Melbourne price point range from 600,000 all the way up to 1.5 million even? Why is this the middle market of Melbourne? This is going to be one of the strongest performers. This requires us to go back in time a little bit to understand the macro dynamics that are happening in Australia. Over the past few years, affordable segments in Australia's property market have done the best, the cheapest end of the market. That is what happens as interest rates go up and up and up and up and up. 13 times they kept going up. And then people had no money left. The cost of living crisis, you want to see what that looks like in the property market? What that actually means is people don't have any money left, so they go and buy the cheapest properties. Investors, they can't go buy properties anymore because their borrowing power's tapped and they're limited and struggling to get finance, so they go buy the cheaper properties because they still want to invest. So the cheaper properties had all this attention on them. But now we're in the reverse side of that equation here, where interest rates are starting to go down, not quite down, just down a little bit. And because of that, you're moving up one rung in the sort of affordability spectrum. It's not the cheaper stuff that everyone wants anymore. That stuff's gone expensive and everyone's like, I don't see much value here. I don't really want to live in whoop whoop around with the criminals and the meth heads. I don't want to be there. Stuff that. I want to live where people want to live. I want to live in Carrum Downs. People want to live there. It's got much stronger fundamentals there in terms of livability. And that's why you're going to see these markets do well, because people's borrowing power has gone up 5-10% over the past 6 to 12 months with tax cuts, with interest rate cuts, and potential lending changes around the horizon, especially if the coalition win the next election and they do what they say they're going to do. That is triggering us up moving the value chain. And that's why Melbourne, 600 to 1.5 million is going to be the sweet spot, the absolute sweet spot. This, if I'm investing in property, this is what I'm buying as well. I'm probably targeting this sort of range in Melbourne because the market cycle timing is really good and also what you're buying is really, really good. This is that economic change narrative. We'll keep harping on about it on all of our sort of shows on our podcast. The economic change narrative is understanding the frameworks of what's going to be driving markets and what's going to be driving the data. When you do that, you know that this sort of middle market of Melbourne is what ticks the boxes. And I've identified 3 suburbs that hit the spot when it comes to middle markets of Melbourne. Carrum Downs, #1. Let's go through some of the data here. I am directly on hashtag. Price point, about $750, 3.8% yield. Bit of an ugly yield, but yeah, we're in Melbourne. The yield's just ugly everywhere, to be honest. That's kind of the truth. Wow, hashtag really loves this suburb. Oh my God. It's just, hashtag's basically saying this is the best suburb in Australia to buy. This is their summary metrics of like capital growth, cash flow, risk, and coming up with a score for where to invest. 90 is very, very high. So very, very strong there. You can see its growth trajectory is pretty strong according to these data sets. Its yields will probably begin to maybe crunch as prices continue to rise and rental growth is pretty normal. Its growth cycle in the right spot. ESAD score of 3. Now, that's not particularly amazing, but compared to the range of suburbs that I've been looking at before and some of these videos where I talked about the really bottom end of town, it's, mid-level. It's an area where, there's a healthy sort of population. They're in jobs. You probably find a level of safety there, not disadvantaged, but not advantaged either. Exactly where you want to be, really, in the middle ring. Lots of owners, 73% owners, mostly houses. And most importantly is the inventory story. I said it in another video. I talked about the shop analogy. There's no product available in the shop. It's like going to Woolies and being like, I want some milk. And being like, what the? There's no milk. Well, there's only, that low-fat stuff, the stuff that I don't want. I want the good stuff. Give me that yummy, creamy stuff. And there's none of it there. There's no stock on the market. There's no building approvals there. Everyone's holding on to it for longer and longer, and the cows are being like, nope, I'm not going to give you the creamy stuff. And then there's a line of people being like, give me creamy milk. That's what it's like in Carrum Downs. And I've actually got some truth to this. We have been on the ground, at open homes, at inspections. Like, we have been there and seen it. Not me personally. You know, I live in Sydney and I've got better things to do on the weekend, truth be told. But our people at Alaya Property, they have been on the ground, boots on the ground in these suburbs, finding properties for our clients. And what they've said, and they've reported back to me, is it's busy here. It's very, very busy. There's energy in the marketplace in Carrum Downs at the moment, and you could see that in the data here. Almost everything is really positive. Only 12 listings according to this data set. Inventory levels very, very low building approvals, long hold periods. People want to stay there. People build their families there. They live there for a long period of time. The vacancy rate is starting to go up a little bit because more and more investors have started seeing some value here. So Carrum Downs, that's a good summary. Definitely put it on your list to look at. I'm going to find a few properties to look at while I'm here because I think that will be kind of fun to do. Let's go look at 2 or 3 properties that have sort of popped up on our search criteria. Okay, so I'm recording my screen and you can see Carrum Downs. I've picked this particular property. This is a beauty. Wow, let's go through why I like this property. So I'm looking at a property right now in Carrum Downs. Really nice, standard 3-bedroom home, probably around 30 years old, in good condition. Wow, the grass is pretty. My kids will love this one. It looks like a big cubby house there too. I kind of want to kick a ball there. It's got everything that you want as an investor. Looks pretty low maintenance. Nice little shed at the back, cubby house for the kids. $780,000. It's got a lot going for it. Pretty nice, attractive one. Let's go through a couple more examples here that we've put together. Our research team has put together. So we have another one here, $625,000 for a bigger block. Again, this building isn't as nice, needs some work, needs a little bit of renovations here, but a nice square block. I really like the shape of this land as well. You can get duplexes on this, maybe even a triplex at some point. And $625,000 is pretty cheap. You're getting a pretty good house on 500 square meter block of land. It's got a lot going for it. Pretty attractive. And this property just needs a lick of paint and it will look pretty attractive after that. So yes, there's a couple examples of homes in Carrum Downs right now that are worth paying attention to. Hey everyone, you guys have been watching this channel. There's been thousands of you. Thank you so much for supporting my journey. If I could ask a favor, only a quarter of you have actually subscribed to our channel. There's 3/4 of you out there that are watching this every single week but aren't subscribed. If I can ask for a huge favor from you, and this will really help me continue to share as much as I can and invest in this channel so I can keep giving you the information that you want. If I can ask, could you please hit that subscribe button and that bell notification, and it'll really help me continue producing content for you all. Okay, so let's go through location number 2, and we're starting to get more and more expensive as we go through these. I am in Meadow Heights now, another area of Melbourne in the Hume location here. So this location is another one to look at. The data-centric terms here aren't as positive when you go through it, but ID has picked this up as a location that's going to start showing the heat pretty soon. Not quite yet, but you kind of expect this to happen when too many people in Carrum Downs are there, too many boots on the ground there. You start seeing spillover into other markets as well. But this is also a pretty expensive area, $630,000, 4% yield, 4.1% yield, a bit of a stronger yield there. Again, that same pressure story, but it is a lower economic area. It's got an ISAD score of 1. So yeah, it's cheaper in terms of its location point. So something to be mindful of a little bit, but as you have slightly different budget points, you may want to look here if you want a slightly cheaper point. You may be able to get less than $600,000 here. Carrum Downs, it's over. You're past that $600,000 point. Here, you may still be able to get it slightly below that, but it's been picked up in our research as an area to watch out for and look at, mainly because of its low inventory periods and the number of homes that are for sale and coming online, not very much at all. So Meadow Heights should be on your list, particularly if you have a smaller budget. Call it $550. You can start looking in Meadow Heights. And let's just quickly show you a property or two in Meadow Heights as well, because that's always fun to look at, to actually see homes for sale in these areas. So we have done a little bit of research here. Oh, this is a nice one. Check. Let's record my screen here so everyone can see. Check this beauty out. Meadow Heights, 530 square meters. Beautiful home, really. This is nice. Very attractive. Nicely renovated. $620,000 for a 530 square meter home. That would probably cost $400,000 to rebuild, so you're getting the land really cheap. Just bear in mind, this particular home has property has a downward slope, so you might want to check any future development potential on something like this, which is something that I'd be doing because I'm buying in Melbourne. Melbourne will have a lot of future development potential, so I'd be a little bit mindful of that and seeing if there's a stormwater easement at the back to allow you to tap into if you're ever building in future, because this is probably a duplex site in future, and I could see this easily being worth 1.2 million and then being carved up into two properties that cost $750,000 each or $800,000 each after you build. I can see that happening in over the next 10 years in Melbourne. So that is something to look at here. Let's see what a more expensive property looks like. Okay, so this property sold for $820,000 in Meadow Heights. I wonder why. Wow, it's very nice on the inside. Okay, I'd spend the extra money too. It's big, it's large. It's got a lot going for it, this particular house. 4-bedroom home. It does cost a little bit more. So you can spend a little bit of a range between 600 to 800,000. More expensive, nicer, larger homes, 820 here. Smaller, cheaper homes, in the early 600 ranges. It might be a bit hard starting with a 5 though. So there's the summary of Meadow Heights. Now we have our final location, the last one to go through. And this one I like a lot because I think it's the sort of marketplace that's going to do very well. But it is a bit more expensive. And realistically, you're spending a lot more than $600,000 to actually get in here. I'm talking about Taylor's Hill in Victoria as well. Again, this is a little bit on the outskirts, but it is a newer area of Melbourne. It is on the outskirts, but all the homes here are particularly nice. It's got a lot of fundamentals going there for it. And again, the data sets are particularly strong. The yield's pretty low though, so you've got to bear that in mind. You're going to be losing cash flow if you're investing here. But really strong point in its growth cycle. Really good ESAD score. Families live here. You're not going to see much crime, things like that. Good owner-occupier area. If you're an owner-occupier, you want to be buying. This is an area to look at, especially for families. But the affordability is really, really low. And when you're looking for homes here, you're going to find sort of newer products, much more rentable, more family-centric. This is probably one that I would have lower on my investment criteria, even though it shows some fundamentals. It's just a bit more expensive. And you're going to be buying more of a building than land in this particular area because most of the land has already been developed and it's existing. You can buy blocks of land as well, but the equation and the math doesn't quite make sense for an investor at this budget price point. But if you're an owner-occupier and you have a family and you want to live in Melbourne and you want to live in a nice family-centric area with a nice 4-bedroom home, it's pretty good timing. In fact, I'd be like looking at this and I'll be like, yes, it's time to buy now. No longer time to rent, time to buy, because these sort of areas are going to do very well. And when areas doing well and you live there, you probably prefer to own it than rent it. And it's at a price point. There's a lot of people, owner-occupiers in Melbourne, 2 people in a job, for example, earning 200 grand between them, 100 grand each, or even 180 grand each, 160 grand each. You can probably find a way to squeeze together enough money to go buy this home for yourself and your family. Would be good timing to look at it. So there you have it. A little bit of a mix. 3 suburbs that should be on your radar if you're investing more than 600 grand, or if you're Melbourneite and want to purchase an owner-occupier dwelling too. If you found this video interesting, or if you want me to pick out even more Melbourne suburbs, we've gone around the grounds. I've learned so much about Melbourne doing all of these videos. Maybe I should start getting to the Toorak and the nicer areas of Melbourne. I wouldn't mind doing some videos there. If you want me to do that, if you're in the audience there being like, hey Rita, can you start going up even 1 level further or 2 levels further and go to the top creamy stuff? I'm quite happy to do videos on penthouses and all the fancy stuff too. If that's what you want to see, I will do it because that's fun to do too. If you could do me a favor, for those that are still watching, hit that subscribe button, drop a comment below with exactly what you'd want me to do, and I'll do it for you.